Hey everybody, Mo Bunnell, your host here at Real Relationships, Real Revenue. You know me. Well, this episode is with Kevin Clem, Chief Commercial Officer at HBR Consulting. They do big time outsourcing of legal departments and at law firms for big complicated legal processes. And they also do a lot of consulting around making law firms and legal departments operationally efficient. This particular episode this is hard to say this, but it's true. This is maybe my favorite episode I've ever recorded. I'm not even going to tell you what's in it. It's just that good. There's just so much laughter in here and so much great content. Well, I will tell you what's in it. This is how Kevin has created a sustainable, scalable change inside his organization as Chief Commercial Officer around our systems. And it's just so good because he has a background in change management, and then he applied that expertise to GrowBIG Training for a lot of their top experts in the Snowball System. And it's just really cool. And we laugh so hard in this episode. It's just, he's so funny. It's so great. So anyway, that's what this episode's about. I think you're going to love it. It's one of my favorites ever, maybe my favorite ever. And we'll get into that in a moment. Now, if you're somebody with your relationships are really important and you also need to develop relationships quickly because you're busy, then you're going to want our latest thought piece. It has 7 ways that you can deepen relationships, each in 5 minutes or less, and you can get it if you go to growbigplaybook.com. Head over to growbigplaybook.com, sign up there, and you'll get it delivered to you right away. 7 ways that you can deepen relationships in 5 minutes or less each. All right, here's Kevin Clem and maybe my favorite episode of all time. Hey everybody, it's Mo Bunnell, your host here at Real Relationships, Real Revenue. I've had a ball having Kevin Clem on the show. He's Chief Commercial Officer at HBR Consulting. And just, Kevin, when we met the first time, I was just, I don't know, I don't know what you do to people. You have like this magic, but I was a Kevin Clem fan like in the first 6 minutes, I would guess. And then of course that's been amplified even over the years. So you have really created, and I want to say this really authentically, like you've created some amazing momentum using GrowBIG Training and the Snowball System and all that stuff. Not just for you, which you have tremendous growth, but for an entire organization. And I just think that's really compelling. And I think a lot of our audience is going to know, gosh, how do people do that? How do they not only be great on their own, you've got that box checked, but then also scaling and getting leverage and amplification through a larger organization. So the question to this is, just personally speaking, what's your favorite science step or story that's in the GrowBIG Training Snowball System? Go.
Snowball. Oh, let's see what I happen to have here. A copy of the Snowball System. It's within reach, so I have
product placement.
Props within reach when necessary. So, if we need to break into song, I've got my microphone here ready to sing. So, yeah, my team members know, and we'll talk about this maybe more on another episode, Mo. But any meeting where I get to sing is a win, especially internally. So we'll have to find a reason for me to give a couple lines at the end of one of these episodes. But back to the Snowball System. It has been a snowball for us at HBR because it started with just a simple, it was a podcast, actually, one of your podcasts that our CEO came across, that our CEO, Nick Quill, came across and said, hey, check this out. And we listened to a podcast. There was a follow-up, and through Jeff Berardi, who was one of your former guests, got connected in. And we had a first conversation about what this could be. And I downloaded and listened on Audible, the Snowball System, and sped you up so you were talking really fast so I could cover it quickly. But I got enough of a glimpse of some of these principles and combining the science, the brain side of things with just simple practical steps that, in fact, as we started sending our team through it, the feedback was, this isn't rocket science, but it's a matter of discipline and following through on the steps. So a couple of things that I have embraced and enjoy. One is the MITs. I think just the most important things, right? I referenced this on a prior episode, but I have this big laundry list of stuff that I'm trying to knock out. And so just being able to say, what are those 3 things? We're all about threes now. Mo, you've converted us into loving threes. We often will say 3 charms and 4 alarms, right? That's in one of the references. So I use
Dr.
that.
Suzanne Chu, I believe. Yeah, nice.
I use it all the time.
Work.
So If we can distill it down from 4 to 3, fewer things, crisp, what are the 3 things you're doing? So we've incorporated MITs and like, what are those 3 most important things? Who are the 3 top clients that we're trying to work with? What are the 3 themes we're going to hit? It's all about 3. So that's one of the things that we took away was MITs. I'm also a big fan of language. I know that might sound strange. Let me unpack that a bit. I think that in order to effectuate change, you have to have people orient around some vernacular or something that's a little different. So this notion of raving fans, the path to raving fan, that language isn't necessarily said in most consulting firms day to day as, oh, let's go make some raving fans. Like people are like, what are you talking about? But because that has become part of our framework, in fact, in our CRM system, for our key accounts, we'll have a little drop down and we have the choices to say, let's do a current state assessment of this client. Where are they on the path to raving fan? Have we gotten to the point of being a trusted advisor? That's great. But our goal is to ultimately get those clients to raving fan status. So talking about moving things through a continuum, moving clients through from first casual acquaintance all the way ultimately to raving fans. In fact, we have a group of our business development and kind of practice leaders. And one of our presidents of our business, his name is Matt, so I'll mention Matt here. But we called the group of people that are meeting with it Matt's Raving Fan Makers. So it's Matt's team, and we're trying to make raving fans of our clients. So it's Matt's Raving Fan Makers. Actually, the name of a Microsoft Teams group that we call it is the Raving Fan Makers. So language, going back to the initial point, I love the notion of the raving fan terminology, the notion of give to gets, our asset list. These things are terms that when we say them, now our team knows what we're talking about. It's that connection to, okay, give to get, I know what that is. It's vernacular that allows us to kind of have our snowball speak of sorts, our big speak, our Mo speak. And I think there's power in language, right? Because it's almost like you're joining a club as you kind of join this BD Habits or the broader GrowBIG Training, and you start to learn the lingo, and then we talk in that lingo. So for me, it's, yes, it's the science, yes, it's the process, yes, it's the methodology, but part of it is the language that we now have a point of connection and say, what are your MITs? And people don't think we're talking about a really smart school in Boston. They know that we're talking about the most important things. So for me, it's been the language we've been able to adopt. And then some of the templates and tools, obviously, as I mentioned, give to gets, having each practice come up with what their thoughtful give to get is, an online asset list that we've defined, and then incorporating these terms into our actual tracking systems so we can move people from that casual acquaintance up to a trusted advisor and ultimately into a raving fan.
Yeah. Oh, this is so good. And I'm going to point, once we publish this, I'm going to point a lot of people to this that are looking to scale. So let's just go a little bit deeper because I want to go deep. I want to go deeper on this because it's so darn valuable, Kevin. I think given your change management background, I mean, it's what you went to school for. You saw the system, you're like, oh man, this is kind of value to me. But then as chief commercial officer, you've scaled it across. So if you had to use your own, the Kevin Clem change management system, teach our audience right now. Let's say that they were diving in. They're going to have a lot of people go through GrowBIG training. What would you say they need to do to build this mindset around growth where people, A, feel great about it, and B, are always making consistent progress around the growth of their organization?
Yeah, I would just encourage you to use some of the science around change management and come up with a kind of creative theme, vision, mission statement, like brand it. So, my role is primarily client development, but also marketing is part of the team. So you got to market this new effort. So for us, when we started kind of really getting in with Mo and the GrowBIG system and Snowball System, I didn't want to call it the Snowball System per se. That's taken. Mo would make us charge us licensing rights if we called it the HBR Snowball System. That's right. So I said, well, let's think about this. We want to grow revenue. What's some kind of cheesy theme that might tie on the revenue concept, but not make it, just like revenue growth. And like, how could we make it kind of fun? So as I mentioned before, I'm all about trying to incorporate something fun. So I came up with a cheesy term called the Rev It Up. So, Rev It Up is a program that we've developed. So again, it was back to language. We're going to define the Rev It Up program. We're going to identify the tracks. So when we launched this, we had a kickoff meeting. I had, he's going the distance, dun, 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 he's going for speed. That was playing in the background. My Zoom background was the Indy 500 track in Indianapolis. We had like revving up sounds of engines. people are like, oh my gosh, Clem, here he is again, goofing off. But it created that language of the Rev It Up program. And while people thought it was a little bit cheesy to begin with, and most people did, but now it's kind of become how we talk about our revenue program, our business development program, how we're applying the Snowball System is through Rev It Up. We have 4 tracks. We have a group of deputies that are essentially the practice leaders' right-hand men or women to help advance this. We call them the accelerators, but it's EXCEL, so it's like excellent and accelerant, like kind of the whole racing theme. So I would say, take a page out of your creative marketing playbook, come up with something that's not just, this is our, revenue growth initiative, but call it something fun. We made a logo with a checkered flag on it. It's like 5th grade quality clip art, but hey, it's something that we can point to and laugh at and forms a point of connection about our Rev It Up meetings. In fact, I mentioned in our little year-end wrap-up video we made, we did myself and 2 of my colleagues made a little our favorite things, reflecting on 2021, which didn't have a lot of favorite things to point to, but I mentioned Rev It Up calls, which is kind of our monthly calls with our teams, and training with Mo Bunnell. So I referenced you in my favorite things. Lots of new ops at the top of the funnel, and every team meeting where I get to sing. These are a few of my favorite things. So yeah, taking the Mo training and applying it to a Rev It Up plan or program that we implemented. So again, to the specific question you asked, how would I get going? I'd take a mindset towards change management. People need to know it's urgent. We need to have a guiding coalition. So that was the idea of the Rev It Up accelerators, a coalition of people. We need to change vision and theme. So something that kind of felt outside of the norm. So a logo, an image, some vernacular that we used. And again, that created a bit of momentum to get us out of the starting blocks or to get us off the starting line with a little bit of momentum was language, something a little different that felt fun and felt like it was a bit of a club that you were joining.
Yeah, and it's a little bit different. It yanked people. It got their attention, which I just love. I mean, there's just so much to dig into there. One last question in this episode. So everybody's just gonna love those ideas. And then when you actually were down in the trenches and you want people to do something differently, how did you motivate that? How did you get people to have more? How did you get people to work on building those raving fans, to do things a little bit differently, change management, to actually act? What did you do there?
Yeah, so and it's still a work in progress. Obviously, we're a year in, and we tried a couple different things. We created a special kind of collaboration incentive where for those that introduced their colleagues outside of their practice, they were eligible for a special bonus. We tried, the good old-fashioned monetary rewards. We've tried some other ways of bringing recognition. I do think competition among those that are high achievers really helps, and it doesn't have to be a monetary award. We tried that approach, and frankly, it didn't move the needle the way we thought. So what we've now started to try is, we've talked just this week, in fact, about we're going to create a little visible trophy to send around to people. So you've got the conch, it's not really a conch, but you got the trophy, and it's a $15 little lucite thing that we're going to say, you're the Rev It Up accelerator of the quarter. It's like something that allows a little competition. Because a lot of times folks are off doing their own thing, and when you can create a tally and celebrate the wins every time we bring in a new logo, a new client that's not worked with HBR before, that logo gets posted on a Teams page. There's a reference to the people who helped bring it in. Everyone gets notified. So recognition, reward, and then some fun, right? In this case, a little trophy we're to send around that you can hold it up and say, "Ha, I got it for this quarter," because I do think that. Some competition is kind of fun, and not in a winner take all type of mindset, because ultimately the way we're structured, all of our teams are working towards a collective enterprise goal. That's how we get bonuses. It's group, it's not individual based, but to have some fun with some rewards, recognition, and then accountability. I think that's one final piece of this is if you're saying, we want you to do this, but then there's no reporting out to say how are we actually doing. That is a big piece of the way to make it stick. Is to actually have some reporting and insights to share, a dashboard. And we're working through that right now to really get better about not just encouraging people to start, capturing their opportunities and using these principles, but actually having the reporting coming out to make sure that we're actually doing what we think we're doing.
Yeah, I love it. And I love the positive reinforcement idea here. A lot of people feel like this has to be a punitive thing, or I'm going to whack somebody over the head if they don't do a thing. Actually, the opposite is true. If we can celebrate things we can control that are moving in the right direction. They can be the tiniest things in the world. And Kevin, it kills me that almost everybody only celebrates the big wins. But like what you're talking about is just introducing somebody, like the stuff we can control. Let's celebrate the heck out of those. We'll get the big wins.
Sure.
But it's pulling it all the way back to an athlete, how they would track having a good workout, not getting the trophy at the end of the season, whatever sport they're in. But if you can just track and celebrate having great workouts, great nutrition, great recovery, doing what you can do today that's in your control, that's what'll lead to the big championship. That's what'll lead to the big wins.
Marginal gains, right? I
Yes.
listened recently to a gentleman who was talking kind of like a motivational speaker. He'd done some work with Tony Robbins in the past, and he was talking about, as we're coming into 2022 and setting new goals, he said, you should set a goal to do 10,000 push-ups a year. I said, wow, that sounds like such a lofty goal. And his comment was, you know what that is? That's 28 push-ups a day. And for the first week, that might be 14 sets of 2. It might be 28 sets of 1. But as you start getting your rhythm, it's just about, that every streak, I think his quote was, every streak starts with 1. It takes one effort to start a streak. So, it might feel like, I need to have 21 days to form a habit. Well, that habit started with day 1. So just take that small step, that marginal gain, that incremental step. Doesn't have to be the big thing, but just an introduction, an invitation, an insight, or some small win that we can celebrate to build some momentum. Because again, going back to the change management training that we referenced a minute ago, one of the steps is to create and celebrate short-term wins. I'm referencing John Kotter from Harvard's 8 Steps to Change, Leading Change. It's been around since 1996. It's fantastic. Still tried and true. That first step about sense of urgency to drive change is important, but celebrating short-term, and he actually uses the term create and celebrate short-term wins. So even if it's not something that was defined as a win, how can we create a celebration opportunity to be able to spotlight things that are going well and build on that momentum? Make that little snowball into a bigger one.
Oh,
how's
done.
How's that for
This
bringing it full circle?
It's over.
Here we go. I'm going to grab the mic and drop it.
I love it. That's fantastic. The perfect ending. We're not even going to tell people to subscribe to the show and follow us.
If you're not already, what is wrong with you? My goodness. Are you living under a rock? Come on.
All right, Kevin. People, you're going to want to connect with Kevin. There's lots of ways to do it. Kevin, where should they go?
Go to hbrconsulting.com. You can find me there. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'll be touring, playing the banjo to local dive bars all over the country starting in 2024. Not true, so don't look for me there yet. We'll see what happens. But no, find me on LinkedIn, or my email is Clem, KCLEM at hbrconsulting.com. Happy to get you connected to my network on LinkedIn or via email as well.
I love it. And we'll put all that stuff down in the show notes, everybody, so you can look there too. Kevin, thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, always a pleasure, Mo. Talk to you soon.